Today is January the 25th, 2021. The energies have been very dense today, so I hope everyone is travelling well. My name is HaKoRa. It is my Huna name. It means spiralling upwards, which is kind of funny because Speedy was my nickname at school. So this timeline is going to be probably the longest one I've done so far. I have been doing a few timelines, and I am aware that they're coming out very thick and fast because I'm very mindful that everyone has very important lives and they're very, very busy, and I don't want to take up a lot of time. But, you know, I do feel called to share. So this is going to be one of those where you might need to grab a pen and paper if you want, or not, or just kick back and have a little listen. This is part of a timeline that I've been working on, I would say the week before Christmas. Someone generously gifted me some materials as a little trade, and I have been deep in them, put it that way. So I will show you quickly the timeline, because it was 3 timelines in one. If you haven't seen the Phantom Matrix yet, that is the first part of the timeline. And then the middle part of the timeline is a manifestation timeline on how the universe works. And then I was doing a galactic history timeline. And then, just when I thought I'd finished doing timelines, I was like, oh, I see a timeline in my head that is what has happened in the last 100 years in the 3D, and then what is really happening in the galactics. And this is just my opinion. These are specific teachings. I am very deep in them. They are very complex. If anyone has delved into the galactic history with the speaker of our time, Aisha Dean, they will agree with me that it is very deep and complex learnings, and you have to digest it. And so I might just skim over lots of words and names, and you might just need to hear it once or twice, and then maybe it comes to you again at another time. So it's just what I've been able to comprehend, all right? So again, I'm still of the learnings, and so I'm sure I might watch this back in a minute, probably delete it because I've learnt more. But for the sake of getting it out of my head, because I need to, there's other stuff I need to do. I'm also a Federal Postal Master, and I have another name as a postmaster, and I also help a lot of people do that as we move in. I spent the last year deeply in the study of common law, UCC, PPSR, all that sort of stuff, what our government's done. I did a law degree in my early 20s, and when I interviewed all the lawyers I knew, they were all miserable people. I thought, oh God, I don't want to do that. So I will attempt, because I've already done another timeline, and this is an old one, so I will be reading it as you're looking at it to try and remember what I wrote. So I do these in sections, but I blame Raven Moonstone, all right? Because I used to do timelines when I was at uni, or when I'm teaching. You know, like I'll always use whiteboards. Like I am actually a movement therapist. I've been a movement therapist for 35 years. I teach teachers how to teach stuff. So every studio I've had, I've always either got a blackboard or a whiteboard or something. There's always something going on the whiteboard because I'm a voracious learner. So, all right, here we go. Are you ready? All right, let's get rid of that. Okay, so this is what the timeline looks like on my wall. So it's giant pieces of card, and I had, you know, I had this one down the bottom, which is the Phantom Matrix. So it was just sort of touching on kind of what they're doing and why they're doing it. I can probably delete these as I go now. So I'm not really expecting you to read any of this at this point. You just get a bit of an idea of, oh God, how the inside of my mind looks at sometimes. I was really sort of, you know, looking at this. You've got this bullshit going on down here. You've got the galactics out here. And then you've got, well, how do we fuse this together? Because here's the thing, right? If you said to someone, hey, do you think we're alone in the universe? Most people would go, no, I don't think we're alone. And then if you sort of start talking to them about the Zedrigelians and the contracts they made and the inner earth, you know, reptilians and all that sort of stuff, they start looking at you like you're mental. It's like, it's too much. And then you realize, yeah, right, there ain't going to be no mass landing right now because humans are just not ready. Most people are not ready. You know, not unless you've sort of, I spelt that wrong. See, I know better now. It's spelt Artlucis. And I don't think there's an E in there. Elucis? No, maybe that's the correct spelling. Maybe I got it wrong before. Check that again. See? Constantly learning, always learning. So that's what the whole thing looked like. It took up most of my wall. Okay? Get rid of those. Let's go here first. All right. This was the top timeline from before. So this was the comparison between the Phantom Matrix. What's the best way to do this? So we live in a universe that is made up of sound, vibration, frequency, magnetism, and consciousness. That's all there is. The world is a reflection of your own consciousness. Right? It's Christ consciousness, but with a K. We are now in the Aquarius age. Scientists have discovered empty space is not empty at all. We are the divine matrix. This is the highest timeline, okay? It's the fifth dimension. You know that people talk about, you know, 3D, 5D, all this sort of stuff. And I've even learnt more since this. I look at this and go, okay, no, I could cross this out. Second dwarf brown sun, mind, body, spirit connection. When we have those in balance, good things happen. We are a planet of free will. What does that say? Oh, visionaries, warriors, been to hell, met Satan. Yeah, you know, when you've come through hell, you sort of, there's something about friction that creates growth, isn't it? The meek shall inherit the earth. How true is that? I have not completely read the Bible. I've read bits and pieces. And I always thought that was like, sounded like weak people would inherit the earth. I beg your pardon. But meek means that you can draw a sword and kill someone, but you choose not to. Courageous, fearless, healthy, focused. So, Akashic Records, a compendium of all events, thoughts, words, emotions, intent, occurred in the past, present, and future, all souls, layer of knowledge. 3 harmonic holographic fields. I say, so there's 3 holographic fields within each harmonic universe. One is Earth, light body, personality matrix. Harmonic universe 2 is Tara, the soul matrix, 4, 5, and 6. It's actually where we're meant to go when we die. Like when we die, we have, our souls are meant to go back to God's source. Harmonic universe 3, Gaian, monadic matrix 7, 8, 9. The 4th harmonic universe is Aurora, the Christos avatar, threefold flame founder. The 5th harmonic universe is Mother Ark, Father Ark, Christos. Stations of identity, consciousness, perception, and expression. Ascension or expanding consciousness. I am pretty, I'm 90% on flat earth. Sorry if that upsets anyone. Magnetic North Pole, dialectic plane, blue mandala, the toroidal field, donut shaped. It's spherical because it's got a toroidal field that goes in, through, and around. It probably glows and probably looks like it's a bit oval. I don't know, let's get rid of this one. don't look right. I think we need to do that one, isn't it? Uh-oh, now I'm confused. 22, 20. Oh, here we go. No, sorry, I'm doing it from the wrong end. There we go. Whew! Almost lost it then. So there's a field of energy around us that is like source intelligence, right? And you can tap into that, through crown chakra. These are the studies of Aisha Ashiana Dean, the Voyagers 2, all right? Dreams, near-death experiences. That French described dreams as a little death. So 1 universe, 5 densities, 15 dimensions, 12 stargates. I listen to Santos Bonacci. He does, and the Pineal Foundation, Martin Kenny. Like, I love his stuff, Inner Earth, the firmament, that was all written in documents and they've removed it. That there's no such thing as gravity. It is magnetism and electricity. And everything plays out in the 3D. So this is all 3D, all right? So there's lots of dimensions. And then we're playing it out. Now, all right, this is a bit incomplete here, but if anyone can help me with this, of my little Christic community, can reach out. So I was writing up the stargates, right? So Stargate 1, Halley, Antarctica. 2, Israel. 3, Bermuda. 4, Egypt, Giza. Where is Stargate 5? 6 is India. 7, I don't have. I just have to go back to the book, all right? I've got 2 stacks of books like this. Stargate 8. 9 is Tibet. 10 is the Middle East. 11 is Europe, southern England, like the head. 12 is France. Montsegur, the throat. So these are the studies. They're called the Chelontic science. Chelontic science. The Templar Creed. So 500, we're actually older than this. We're 560 billion years old. All right, millions. Christos founder races, okay? Arimatina, Avion, Vega, 2448 DNA strand, cradle of creation, 11, 12, 10, Vega. You can see how I come back and forward when I'm reading in the priests of Ur, Azarites, blue flame Melchizedeks, Templar, the law of one teachings, host matrix, Chelontic science. The Earth goes in 26,556 year cycles. It also goes on 4,426 year cycles. Okay, let's get rid of that one and that one. All right, here we go. So the pyramids were built 48,500 years ago. In our time, it would be 46,459 BC, between 28,000 BC. Silicon dioxide holds memory. That's the blocks that the pyramid are made of. The Syrian Council and the Anunnaki came down and helped the pyramids of Giza. It is a harmonic resonance chamber, heart chakra, D4 vortex, multidimensional frequency. It was an intergalactic transporter. It was lined up with Sirius B using the Ankh capstone, and the Ark of the Covenant created a vortex from Earth's fourth dimensional frequency, D2 overtones of harmonic universe 1, and I'd say harmonic universe D4 overtones of harmonic universe 2, time leap. So the Syrian Council and the Galactic Federation could pop back down anytime they needed to, which kind of kept the bad guys at bay. They'd used the Sphinx and built the Sphinx as a kind of a symbol, isn't it? To go, no, you don't get to use the Ark of the Covenant and the Sphere of Amenti. It's a portal, all right? So the Sphinx is built over the inner Earth portal, and the pyramids were used to protect the Sphere of Amenti, the Ark of the Covenant is not a box, radioactive box, all right? It's a portal. Excuse me. It was also a training school for initiates to the Melchizedek Elohim ascension programs, and ascension for those with the right DNA. or who are in favour of the Elohim. And they'd get to go to Harmonic Universe 2 Tara. Protective buildings for info, arc, stuff, right, and the unks. Yeah. So people that weren't allowed to like use the Ark of the Covenant, and forgive me for my rudimentariness with these teachings, for those that know more, is that they were sort of a bit pissed off that they couldn't use the Ark of the Covenant. And so Earth is essentially a giant crystal, right? And 55,000 years ago, when Atlantis and Lemuria were around, they were incredibly advanced civilizations. And the Syrian Council had given Atlantis crystals to generate energies and technologies and what have you, and they wanted to draw upon those crystals, and they did, and it kind of backfired and kind of blew up Atlantis, and it sank. Syrian Council developed advanced technologies. Sirius B gifted large crystalline power generators, D2 core, permission from the Ra Confederacy, Elohim, draw power from the blue flame of Amenti as passageway of the Ark of the Covenant, affecting matter, so they can dematerialize and rematerialize, so like a teleport, bioenergetic healing. The Anunnaki resistance weren't allowed to use the Ark of the Covenant. I don't think they were too happy with that. Oh, I love that. We're just solidified sunlight. Looks like it's meant to be over here. I love this. Skin suit technology. All life forms manifested into our universe. This is quite confusing. There we go. Sphinx over portal to inner earth, Ark of the Covenant, sphere of Amenti, symbol of Anu resistance, body of Leonine, which is the history of the Anunnaks, and the face of an Anunnaki warrior. Power to reverse the gravitational pull, affect particle makeup morphogenic of Earth's matter and substance. So with Atlantis, 28,000 years ago, explosion, Atlantis sank, Ark relocated. The Anunnaki resistance Templar, Anu, look, sad face. So it's been the challenge reading all of these studies to figure out who the bad guys are and who the good guys are. Like it's just been this kind of, everyone's, like Jedi mind tricks everywhere. Thoth played both sides. Sorry, bugs flying around. It's been very hot here the last couple of days. So it smashed the pyramids out of alignment when Atlantis sank, right? And then 10,500 years ago, pyramids were repaired and aligned to Alcyon. So it was moved too far out to line back up with the Ark of the Covenant. Here we go. Aha, here we go. All right, good, I've got them in order. Akhenaten, Nefertiti, 1353 BC. They could not. So we've gone through periods where the Ark of the Covenant and the Ascension gates have been closed. They put a frequency fence on Earth. So essentially Earth is caught in a time matrix. Time is an illusion that they've trapped us into, that we think that's in the past and that's in the future, but actually it's all kind of happening at once. Like kind of the sinking of Atlantis is kind of happening like right now. What's that? Marcos de Santiago, the guy, he explains it really well. What the gates are kind of going like this and they're lining up like that. So the veils between Atlantis and us right now are really, really close. Oh, the Luciferian Covenant of 9,558. Yeah. Oh. I will just mention these because, again, it's full on. The fall of Brunel, that was huge. Founder races shut down the Stargates, went into a big dark cycle. That was 208,000 years, 216 BC. Draconian invasion forced the pole shift. Earth went from 12 code pulse to 10 pulse. Angelic females were taken to Nibiru and forced to breed. It was the Essene divide. Black sons of the Orient Empire turned Earth into a prison planet to harvest Loosh. when we went from 12 code to 10 code, we went from not eating to eating, and 12 fingers and toes to 10. That's not 200,000 years ago. So usually at that point of the conversation, you usually lose people. Stick with it. Stick with it. This is the old timeline. I'll jump down onto the other one I did this last week. The Iani massacre, the Thothian, Luciferian, Anunnaki invade Kauai, Hawaii. So what they did, so there are 12, I'll go into this explanation later, but there are 12 holographic CDD plates that hold humanity's history, right? There were 12 tribes, and they each were to look after each one of these holographic discs, and Anunnaki came in and they hijacked CDD plate 11, and that's when they started messing with us. Hybridization. Again, they took Iani grail line females for hybridization. Then there was the Babylonian massacre of 3470 BC, the Anunnaki Galactic Federation invade. So for me, the Galactic Federation have gone from kind of being good to being a bit devious. And so even recently in the last 5 or 6 years, the Anunnaki have backstabbed us again. So, it's about who you can trust, isn't it, really? They forced another pole shift, which wiped out humanity's memory and race, okay? That was the flood, was it? It's hard to know what is, when they're the fictitious stuff and what is the true stuff. So the true teachings have they've kept their cards quite close to their chest, but it's just having the discernment. And it's not about the information, it's about the frequency, isn't it? So you could hear this stuff 20 times from 20 different people, and again, you hear it from one person and you're like, oh, 42 laws of Ma'at. So there were founders. So basically it's the founder races versus the fallen angels. And the fallen angels are like the Nephilim, right? And so some religions will hear about that. Pleiadian covenant, founders of the Christos races, all souls lost in the phantom matrix, back to God's source. 6,000 years of slavery. So yeah, we've been enslaved for the last 6,000 years. Oh, I did put a note in there. That's to do with Lucius. They have found beer recipes dating back to 13,000 BC. 9,540 years ago, a quarantine fence was put in place. Now, that just meant that people couldn't come in, people couldn't go out. So none of our friendly brothers and sisters of the galaxy could get in to communicate with us, and no one's souls could ascend. But according to Andrew Bartz's, souls haven't ascended for 410,000 years. Guardian founder race is the Emerald Covenant. Let me done on this one. All right. So there've been speakers in our time, and every 25,552 years, another speaker comes in. I believe John the Baptist was a speaker. There was a job that Joshua 12 had to do, but he didn't complete it. So Arthur, the Knights Templar, kind of tried to take his place, and now we've got Shadeen. 11,000 years ago, the deluge, the mud flood. Still not sure about the asteroid hitting Earth, but please stop and correct me if I'm wrong, if you know better. I feel like they used that energy, and that's when Atlantis sunk, but probably got hit as well. The Arthurian Grail quest, 608 AD. That's Arthur from the Knights Templar. Jeshua Senander Melchizedek. Yep, John the Baptist was a speaker. So Illuminati Zeta Treaty of 1930. Palladian Syrian Agreement of 1992. Anunnaki broke agreement with the Emerald Covenant founders to surrender Earth to the Anunnaki slavery. That's the Treaty of Altair, and that was signed in 2000, July 5th. This is what gave me the idea to start doing a timeline that was a comparison between what had been going on in 3D and what is going on in the galaxy. So, Eleusis. Yes, I spelt it with an A when I was first reading it. There's a guy that's written a really good book It's called The Immortality Key, and it's by Brian Muramesco, and that's recently released, probably in September, and that is about Greek history. So he was looking at fermented wines, spiked wines, and ergo and Eleusis as a place you go to essentially flirt with life and death under the guidance of, female teachers. And so Greek mythology, that is the basis of all of its teachings. Astrology, arts, science, mythology, and democracy all come from the teachings of Eleusis. So it was outlawed in 364 AD. Emperor Valentinian outlawed all nocturnal activities, and he was begged not to do it, that it would destroy civilization. They would use ergo, mushrooms, and there would be an annual visit to the temple place. So 300 AD, Western tradition kind of took over from ancient tradition, and that's where everything started going downhill, really. And so it was going and flirting with Demeter and Persephone, which is from 300-400 BC, which is the underworld. They took Eleusis to Spain because they loved doing it, and it was outlawed. So this period of time is really interesting because this is when Constantinople was the biggest, the Roman Empire had taken over the world. Here we go, 542, Roman Empire. Now, in 535, Krakatoa erupted, and it was equal to 2 million times that of Hiroshima. So they had 100 years of upheaval because when it erupted, it had covered the sky and blanketed the earth for 100 years. And so the weather changed, the crops died, and what had happened was that the temperature of Africa had been reduced, and where the mosquitoes, the bubonic plague, and they were traveling by boats back then, so rats or something brought it over to Europe, and then the bubonic plague kicked in. And if you want to talk about a pandemic, go look at Krakatoa, and then go look at what it did to the Roman Empire. And fleas were carrying it, and it squashed the guts of the rats. So it meant that the rats were always hungry for blood, and that it was fleas that were passing on the bubonic plague, but then rats started doing it. And so rats would bite people, and give them the bubonic plague. And 10,000 people a day were dying in Rome. They lost count after 250,000 people. Can you imagine how it stunk? They were burying them, they were chucking them in holes, then they started burning them, then they just couldn't keep up with it. 10,000 people a day were dying of the bubonic plague. And then it moved to England, and then it hit England. I found that. I've already done a timeline on that. That's another one. I found it interesting. I did a timeline of death. I have to do that one again as well. So even in 414, Socrates was practicing Eleusis at home, quietly, curating experiences that flirt with life and death. He's tripping off his nuts. Dioscorides, father of drugs, he has 5 books, recipes, all of spiced wine. Book 4, number 74, ergo, spiced wine. Ergo is the fungus that grows on wheat, and they used mushrooms. And then the Avars, the Mongolians, came in, and so the Avars were brutal people, brutal. They rode horses, and they came in and they took 7 billion in gold. So Roman got really broken by this bubonic plague, and it took a real hit. I'm digressing now, away from the galactics. So every 26,000 years, there is a precession of the equinoxes. So we've moved into Aquarius. So 2012, 2020, planetary conjunction of 6,000 years. We just lived through that, 21st of December. Galactic photon belt. gamma ray radiation, white light, spontaneous revolution of all creatures, cosmological phenomena. Make sure you get in the sun. So 2017, there was a stellar activation. There was meant to be a forced pole shift. It hasn't happened. If you want to look at other experiments, that probably needs to be included in my other timeline. Montauk, the Philadelphia experiment, Pentagon, look at these things. The Twin Towers, that was an inaudible, invisible, sound-based technology. The invisible iron hand, transmute scalar wave template, turning matters into dust. That's what triggered me to do this other timeline. So as long as you've got a 4.25 strand, sustainable DNA, you can activate and relocate. Third strand DNA, cellular memory, dream spell recall, frequency fence, yep, that keeps coming up. Atlantis, that is the frequency fence, 9,558 BC. Ah, the Luciferian Covenant. They erased the historical memory. So if you want to follow these teachings, I'm doing some study with Massimo. It's on Instagram, it's angelic.humanity. And I've deliberately put that in there because I'm going to talk about that in the other timeline. So the ascension wave of 2017 of the halls of Amenti, natural ascension cycle. The secrets of Amenti were held under protection of the blue flame cloister Melchizedeks and Hebrew Essenes. But Amenti belongs to all races and religions. The sphere of Amenti, Ark of the Covenant, and the halls of Amenti represent the manifestation of the covenant of Palador, which holds evolutionary progression for all human lineage. It is the promise of humanity returning to the integrity of immortal God being, which is the original morphogenetic imprint of the human race. Organic Stargate Ascension, the Emerald Order Christic community, the Guardian teaching. Kelons, pure Templar Creed truths. So these are the true teachings of the galactic, okay? Let's go here. All right, so this is the timeline that I was talking about. See, it's a little one, all right? Well, maybe not so little. I think I might start, I don't know which end to start at. All right, let's start at the beginning, hey? Let's go down here. So this is why I had to number them all. Here we go. Right, okay. All right, galactic history 3D, 5D. So, 950 billion years old. There was 600 million years of peace before trouble came. Emerald Order founder teachings. The founder records. Here we go, I was explaining it. So these are the founder records. They are 12 CDD plates, holographic discs, 12 plates, 12 tribes. 22,000 years ago, Anunnaki Thoth hijacked plate 11 from Kauai. And so the Thoth are the Luciferian, they are the Illuminati. That's the line there. They trapped us into a universal time matrix, a phantom matrix. Now, the Weezedex matrix is a little bit more complex. That is where religion comes from. The Anunnaki and Draco don't have DNA strand 10 and 11, so they're stuck in time. So all they can do is eat and consume, right? 210,000 years ago, fall of Brunel. I did talk about that when they lost 11th and 12th dimension. They had 12 fingers and toes, and now they didn't eat. So they closed those dimensions off. The Christic versus the Anunnaki. 5 density harmonics, 15 dimensions, 12 stargates. I talked about that earlier. 3 Christos founder races of the Emerald Order. And because of this, people were unable to ascend through the multi-dimensional cosmic structure out of the time matrix. So the third seeding of Earth, and I'll talk about that in a bit, was 65,000 years ago. Right. Again, 9,540 BC frequency fans or a quarantine where souls can't ascend, incarnation. So we've been suffering like Groundhog Day. But we are born with a PP1 molecule in our brain, which means we can't remember our past lives. All souls' journey is to return to God's source, harmonic universe 2. The stargates were open 2017. They're actually closed at the moment. The Menti Rescue Mission, the Akhenaten mission. Now, let's just bounce down to the 3D a sec. So, summary of the Phantom Matrix. Now, if you shrank the world's population down to 100, it would look like this. 50 would be men, 50 would be women. 70 would be white, 30 would be non-white. 61 would be Asian, 13 would be African, 8 would be North American, 5 would be South American. 33 would be Christians, 67 would be non-Christians. 18 would be Muslims, 14 Hindus, 6 Buddhists, 13 practice other religions, 16 non-religious, 89 would be heterosexual, 13 would be homosexual. Of course, these would be stats on like, those forms they fill out. So most people I know don't even fill those out. So I'm sure these numbers would be a bit different. 47 live in cities. 50 suffer malnutrition. Well, 99% of them would be minerally deficient. I'll tell you that now. 80% live in substandard housing. 43 without basic sanitation. 13 live without clean water. 13 are hungry. I'll say that number's gone up significantly in the last year. 9 are disabled. 12 have a computer. 14 can't read. Well, I would say that's probably higher because I just did some research on grammar and at least 50% of Australians can't read and write. They can't read and write numbers well enough to take medication from bottles. Wow. Only 7 would have a second level education. That's high school. 3 have internet. I'm sure that's more than that. Haven't little boys in Africa got better internet connection than us in Australia? I mean, really. 1 college degree and 1 has HIV between the age of 15 and 49. 18 live on $1 a day, struggle on $1 a day. 53 struggle on $2 a day. How much do you spend a day on food? That's a lot of people. If you've got food in your fridge and a roof over your head, you are in the top 75% of that group. 6 people control this entire world. So this Earth drama, this Phantom Matrix is completely inverted. Whatever you see out there, probably the truth is completely backward. And it is multi-matrix warfare that is going on. So let me just get this one out of the way. This one here. Right, it lines up a bit better, doesn't it? Okay, so just following on here, talking about religion. So religion was a Draco technology that they implanted, like the concept of Anu, Lord, Yahweh, religion, basically, all right? It's a control mechanism. But if you look at Christians, okay, 2.3 billion, Islam, 1.9 billion, Hindu, 1.1 billion, unaffiliated, 1.1 billion, Buddhism, 506 million, Sikh, 23 million, Neo-Pagan, 1 million, Shinto, 4 million, Baha'i, 7 million, Judaism, 14 million, Spiritism, 15 million. That's like African, and not just African, Spiritism, like voodoo stuff. Not spirituality, spiritism, slightly different. I'll come back to the, oh no, let's go into this. All right, so in America, like when you live in America and say you're not born there and you want to get a green card and you've got to sit your green card test and all that, you have to recite every president they've had since the beginning. Like, everyone knows their presidents really well. And I would probably bet to say most people in Australia would know the names of American presidents quicker than they could name the Australian prime ministers, right? So here we go. This is stuff you should have learnt at school. So right about now, you need to be spending your time relearning stuff, unlearning, and just educating, especially the kids. All right, Scotty from marketing, also referred to Scott Morrison, who's currently over in America, standing with Trump in a creased suit, looking crumpled, with not a very good look on his face. Yeah. 2019. Remember when he swore in? He swore into Her Majesty. 2016, Malcolm Turnbull. 2013, Tony Abbott. 2010, Julia Gillard. 2007, Kevin Rudd. 1996, John Howard. That is the man that is responsible, well, his niece is responsible for the pedophile suppression orders. 1993, Paul Keating. There's enough people out there on the internet telling you about that stuff. 1983, Bob Hawke. 1975, Malcolm Fraser. 1972, Gough Whitlam. 71, Billy McMahon. 1969, John Gordon. 1967, John McEwen. 66, Harold Holt. Now, Harold Holt was murdered. He suddenly went missing off the coast of Portsea. He had gone to the Exmouth military base, and he didn't like what he saw, and so they topped him. 1949, Robert Menzies. Now, this guy, he flew the first blue flag in 1953 when Parliament were in meeting. That's the only time the blue flag was flown, and it was called the New Age. This same man blatantly lied to Parliament. 1946, Ben Cuffley. 45, Frank Ford. 1943, John Curtin. 1940, Arthur Fadden. 1939, Sir Earl Page. Robert Menzies. There he is again, from the beginning. Now, Sir Earl Page dived in there, but then he quickly moved over into being Chief Judge. 1900, 1901, a constitution was brought in, a little English copy. I don't think it was brought in by referendum at all. I mean, they didn't treaty with original people. So that's just a little Aussie thing there. So how many people could name all those? Now, I would say every single one of them, and I'm not joking, should be tried for treason. Because if he's back here and he's at the beginning of it, and he was responsible for that flag, and he was responsible for blatantly lying to Parliament about Maralinga, and every single Governor General since then, and then Holt got murdered. So you got Johnny in there, McEwen, Gordon, Billy McMahon. Oh, maybe that might have been, I don't know, I can't even tell you whether they're Liberal or Labor. Gough Whitlam, treason. Malcolm Fraser, treason. Bob Hawke, treason. Paul Keating, pedophile. John Howard, treason. Rudd, all of them. Every single one of them need to answer some questions. So, okay, today's just really boiled my blood a little bit, you know. All right, let's line it up. Let's go back to the galactic, shall we? All right, so you know the Fibonacci, beautiful Fibonacci, music, you know, flower of life, sacred geometry. We all love that, don't we? Yep, it's false light. They're sneaky fuckers, aren't they? Now, the Metatronic cube is based on 60-degree demon black hole technologies. It traps Christos star seeds. It's the black cube matrix. It's connected also to the looking glass technology. It's a Metatronic reversal coding. So this point here, this little arrow, is 8th and 9th November 2023. So this is when both these time waves meet, and this Fibonacci will try and pull everyone down inside this Metatronic cube, but the Christic time wave actually goes above it. So by the time we get up here, we probably won't even see each other. All right? Flower of life is known as the daisy of death. It's like reality feels, right? There's that movie called Soul that Disney brought out. So I've not seen it, but there's a video. Just reach out to me, I can send it to you. It's from Ian, one of the guys in the Galactic class. I think he's in Liverpool. Explains it really well. He's probably got 4 videos up there. The proper kind of patterns you need to be looking at are ones that have got 4, and they all feed out, and it's called a ruche, God seed, and it's like living eternal life. It's a system with backflow, similar to what Full:(Russell-J) has done with the infinity postal mechanics system, you know, universal life force. It's the Trivaca Christos, Holy Grail quest. So 3 primary indigos we've got. Indigo type 1, very uncommon, 48-strand DNA. It is an orphan genetic code. It contains within it between a 30 and 48 ascension codes. Its contract is a world service one, right? To do planet grid work, and it has, you know, advanced psychic abilities. Type 2s are a lot more common. They are orphan. They are 24-strand DNA code. They have the 21 to 30 ascension code, and they tend to assist type 1s in also raising consciousness. They are really good at arts and music and linguistics and personal diplomacy. Maybe that's not me, I don't know. And type 3s are quite common. They are actually 2-in-1s. So they've not only got the blood of ancient Nephilim, but an Anunnaki from seeding 2 that kind of got through, but they're also Orphan. So they're like a mix of Orphan and Nephilim, and often will have quite extreme polarities in them between reversed 11th and 12th strand potential. Now, recent class I was in, I heard in 2000, a lot of Nephilim walked out of those type 3s. So they might be feeling a lot better, maybe since 2000, hopefully. All right, go back to 3D. So just little reminders, of course, in the same vein that I'm always talking about, which is the Justinian deception, which is the joining of church and state that happened in 529 to 534. The Gnostics were the goodies. They were the first ones that kind of brought in the concept that, you know, getting people under religion to start looking at things in a different way. The Cathars were also the pure bloodline of Jeshua. Now, Jeshua 12, I'll talk about the true story of Christmas. There were 3 Jeshuas, Jeshua 12, Jeshua 9, and another guy that ended up getting put on the cross named Alahar, something like that. So Jeshua 12 lived until he ascended, and he did create 5 children with 5 different women that were all pure Margie Grail line, Indigo 1 females, and that bloodline lived on, and they lived on within the Cathars. And so back in 1250, the Vatican went right out of their way and killed 1 million Cathars. Now, this was an interesting date, January the 13th. So that was why Trump chose that date to announce a few things, okay? So the Pope acknowledged Knights Templar as God's army. So it was basically admitting defeat, that they had a highest jurisdiction. So that was an interesting date. 1302, Unum Sanctum, Pope Boniface VIII declared all souls his. 1536, the See of Rome Act, Pope Paul sold off the assets and the Jesuits took over. 1666, CESTQV, that's the birth certificate fraud. And 1689, rule of law is that you must consent. Okay. Now, they must have been smoking crack here in the 70s, because some of the stuff that they've done has to be undone, and I don't know how we're going to do it, but we'll figure it out, okay? 1973, they signed the Unidroit Treaty, the equitable title of mineral energy and wealth of Australia was signed over to a foreign power, the head of Rome, the Vatican. So all tax, everything, all the profits, everything goes to the Vatican. In 1975, they signed the Lima Agreement, the Declaration. You got to look at Resolution 27, 35, 28, 41, 43, 52. Didn't go into the details here because they're deep. But basically, they all lied. So all that lot back in the 70s, I'm talking, particularly this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy. I'd say this guy, and that one, and that one. But definitely this one, Whitlam, Fraser, Hawke. And that Menzies bloke lied outright and said, this is going to be really good for our country. It's international. We're getting groovy. You know, I remember I was living here back then. You know, yeah, we're independent. We're a republic. We're so fantastic. But what they actually did is they completely destroyed industry. And so we went from being, you know, owning all our own production and everything to actually 98% of our industrial business is gone, absolutely gone. Like they've gotten rid of farmers, they've sold off land, sold water, sold the air, sold everything. We've got no right to. I did a brief estimate just from research on the internet, which probably wouldn't be correct, but it's averagely about $250 billion a year just on these certain things alone. So Australia is number one in the world for gold, iron ore, lead, nickel, rutile, uranium, zinc, zircon, coal and gas. 61 billion, 40 billion, just alone on those, separate from that. They're second in the world for bauxite, cobalt, copper, ilmenite, silver, niobium. I don't even know what these are. Niobium, tantalum, thorium, lithium, sand, gravel, gypsum, silver, tin, copper, chromium, aluminium. This is this new thing come out called BGY, the United Globalists. It's called the 3F Plan. It's kind of interesting. It's the CCP. Blue means media. That's how they're going to kind of get to you. Gold means buying power. And yellow means honey traps, meaning they MPs, whoever they need to trap, get them stoned, get them filming them doing something dodgy with somebody, and that's it, they've got them. And so it's connected. Remember the ancient Silk Road? That was the trading routes for China, really old. They're going to create a new one called the Belt Road Initiative so that China will be the superpower. Doing a pretty good job, aren't they? I think China owns most of Australia. It's already sold. So these are the HaKoRa teachings. Joshua 12 had two jobs: to imprint the sphere of Amenti for the 2000 ascension, which is just passed, and unplug the Niberian dotted crystal grid from the Stargate at Stonehenge. So he failed with that. And Arthur and Guinevere were to take over that job. And then Iasha took over that job in 2000, and she went to Stonehenge with all of her indigos. And as she flew in from Florida and landed in Europe, she got a phone call, or not a phone call, she got a call to say to leave straight away. So she did. And she flew straight back to Florida. And the idea was to run a high dimensional frequency through that Stonehenge, because this sits underneath Stonehenge. All right, let me get this over here. Let me move this out of the way. If I've bored you to death, you can always just switch me off. It's easy. When you want, you just turn it off. If it's not resonating, don't listen. It's all good. Okay, back to the 3D. In 1890 and 1930, the occult was really popular. And there was a woman called Maria Orsic, very, very beautiful looking woman. She was born in 1895 in Munich. and she was involved with the Vril Society. And back then in sort of 1920, the women's look was, you know, like that short bob, the 1920s, flapper kind of outfit. The 1920s really was the first time women could, because all the men were at war, World War One, so all the women were left. And it was the first time ever that a woman could go out and eat dinner on her own without a husband or a chaperone. And she could wear trousers if she wanted to. And it probably would have been quite an interesting time. Lots of French poet people and artistry, and the art was really amazing, you know, Impressionism and stuff like that. So the Vril Society, they would grow their hair really long because they said that was the way of connecting. And the Thule Society was another one, and Black Sun. And this woman was a medium, and she channeled from Aldebaran. And she actually channeled through ancient Sumerian language. She'd go into trance and just channel it. And also plans to build a round airplane. So they worked with the Nazis. And in 1945, after the war, right, they all just disappeared. They said, we're not staying here, and they left. But another way that they infiltrated society through the Freemasonry, the Theosophical Society, a woman called Helena Blavatsky started that. It was like a little woman's book club that you could go to, and that's how they started infiltrating information into people. 1871, America becomes a corporation. So that's what Mr. Trump has just collapsed, all right? Which is good. 1770, Terra Australis is invaded. Now, around about this time, 1920, the Titanic sank, very conveniently. Ben Guggenheim, Izzy Strauss, David Astor were the three richest men on the planet, and they all opposed the Federal Reserve. And funny that, they all died. And funny that, the guy that opened the Federal Reserve was the guy that owned the company that built the boat, JP Morgan. So it's JP Morgan and the Rothschilds. And in 1920, the Rothschild had career pigeons, and so he managed to clean up on the stock market in England, and he insisted that everyone learn adverb, verb, grammar, not prepositional phrases. And that's sort of how it really got ingrained into the universities and schools and stuff. Treaty of Versailles was a peace treaty written after World War One. League of Nations, that's another thing to keep an eye on. Tesla was around back then, 1895. They stole his stuff. You know about the story of John Trump, Donald Trump's uncle, and the book called The Amazing Adventures of Baron Trump's Time Travel. It's interesting. So 1919, 1959, this is the stuff we should have learned at school. This is Stalin and Lenin. This is pure communism. They killed 10 million people in the Soviet Union. They're doing exactly the same thing here to us right now. Mao Zedong killed millions, you know. This is not something new. Sorry, flying midges. Okay, so just for basic history lessons, World War One started in July 28th, 1914 and went to November the 11th, 1918. The Battle of the Somme, 1916, July, November. I got really big on watching Peaky Blinders. I love Killian. I love it. I think he's awesome. World War II, 1st of September 1939 to the 2nd of September 1945. My mum and dad were born in mid-20s, and that's where they met. And they were, my dad was a pilot, my mum was a nurse, and the photos I had of them when they were first together, they're all in army greens. Federal Reserve was started in 1913, created by JP Morgan and Rothschild, and ended in 2020, thanks to Donald Trump. The Cold War, 1947 to 1991, that went on a long time. That was between us and the Russians. I don't know if you remember that. Vietnam, another terrible war that shouldn't have happened. 1 November 1955 to 30th of April 1975. A lot of people died, 60, 70,000. Australia was involved in that. They really fucked up a lot of men, you know. Korean War, 22 July 1950, 27 July 1953. Russian War, 7 November 1917, 25 October 1922. The Balkan War, Bulgaria. Marina Jacobi was talking about that when I was listening to her today, like it was. They were one of the strongest empires. The Tsar, there was bombs going off. Now, round about this time, so all of this bombing and all this drama, well, really, 1945, the atomic bomb was really the big call out, because that was the first sort of atomic bomb dropped on Earth. They hit Hiroshima August the 6th, and then they hit Nagasaki the day after. That sent a big distress call out to the universe. Now, the Zeta Regalians made contact. I guess they vibrated closely to the Nazis, and that's who they directly started interacting with. I guess Maria Orsic kind of, was also sort of a bit involved there. And they said to them, we'll help you win World War I and II in exchange for letting us do experiments on humans. Well, like that, yeah, sure, do what you want. So between 1930 and 40, they were, God knows what they were doing. So they've been implanting indigos into here on Earth for like the last 100 years. So we are a free will universe, we are. And the Draco have been implanting people here, doing dirty work through their little bodies, 3D bodies. And indigos have been coming in for the last 100 years. So that was the call. They need help down on Earth. They can't sort of step in and tell us what to do, but the best way to do it is to infiltrate. The thing is that we don't remember our lives. We don't remember why we're here. So I know for most indigos, it's trying to just figure out, you don't fit in, you don't know why, but this is why you're here. You're here to activate your DNA, to wake up the other indigos, because there's 500,000 of us, at least. And then there's a whole lot of people that just won't wake up. Now, well, here we go. So 1926 was when they made an agreement with the Zeta Regalians. Nazis and Zeta built an Arctic base, a moon base, that's called the Lunar Operation Command, and they built a base in Mars. So the Germans had fully flying secret space program and operational UFOs in 1930. In 1943, there was something called the Philadelphia Experiment, which it's easy to look up, and it's about a ship that was in the shipyard in Philadelphia that kind of glowed bright green and then disappeared. It appeared, 100 miles down the coast. It appeared kind of a bit, disappeared again, and reappeared back in the naval base. And what they did is they scrambled the magnetic field of the ships using degaussing technique. It was a technology that the Zeta Regalians had traded with the US Navy, right? The Zetas knew that creating a manufactured Merkaba field would disrupt Earth's natural D2 Merkaba field, and it created a rip in space-time. The US Navy didn't know this. They were like messing around with them. And what they were able to do is they moved spaceships into broadcast electromagnetic pulses directly into Earth's D1 Merkaba, or the central sun, to put the frequency field back up, to stop good beings coming in, to stop souls ascending. So again, to do looking glass technology. So it was in the hands of the Illuminati for a long time, I guess from back here, because in 1947, have I not written it in? I must have. 1947 is the Roswell incident, where spaceships landed in, is it Nevada? Somewhere out there. And they took technology off the ship, but they quickly raced down there and covered it up. And that's how the CIA started. And they went, oh, it's a weather balloon. But they'd taken technologies off and put them into Area 51. And we've had people talk about that. But it's been back in the good hands since 2012. So the looking glass technology gives you the ability to look ahead and look behind and almost control future and past events almost. It's quite, I don't fully understand it, but atomic bomb, 1941, Pearl Harbor, they put a stamp on the bomb. That was a postal shipping war. I do a timeline on that too, on the UPU. So to bring it back to Australia again, in 1957, the Queen's speech, you know, when she was sworn in, remember she was all young and she did one big ceremony in public and then she did another private ceremony. So she did a public one to the St. Edward's Crown and then she did a private one to the Catholic Crown. And in her Christmas speech that year, she said, "I cannot help you." She said that to the people, "Can't help you." No one listened, did they? So in 1966, when pounds swapped over to dollars, the Queen duplicated her name and created a private corporation, quite similar to what they did back in 1871 in America. Her Majesty. So I'll just finish off this 3D bit here. It's pretty full on. Again, they're smoking crack in Australia in these times. All right. So between 1956 and 1963, in a place called Maralinga, Woomera, which is 450 kilometres northwest of where I live, there is an area of 122,000 kilometres that is a no-go zone. It's like Area 51. They drew on the Atomic Energy Act of 1946 and they were doing experiments. They dropped 12 nuclear bombs, 7 atomic bombs, and there are still 10,000 barrels of radioactive shit up there. Somewhere around here, 1964, we've got JFK being assassinated. No, sorry, 1963, sorry. So in 1961, he warned everyone about the industrial military complex and about, you know, them taking over. So on the 22nd of November, he was murdered. Lee Harvey Oswald was arrested. And 2 days later, someone shot him. How did they do that? A guy called Jack Ruby, who then died in custody in 1964. How convenient that no one could be questioned about that. So in 1966, the treaties were signed. Can you see the dates? Are you noticing any patterns here? 63, he's dead. 64, they signed a treaty. 66. 64, Lyndon Johnson. These got Fraser Hawke-Keating lied, right? Menzies told the Senate, no conceivable injury to life, man, or property could emerge from these tests. What, ignorance? Well, so smart is scary. 1970, Pine Gap of America. Oh, Montauk Project, go on, have a look at that, 1986. They were kidnapping children, doing experiments on them. It was between 1971 and 1983. 1986 is the Australia Act, completely fraudulent. In 1972, Gough Whitlam created a duplicate government. 73, Uni-Droit Treaty. 1975, the Lima Declaration, 98% of all industry gone. 1980, the Georgia Guidestones were built. They said only 500 million people are going to live on Earth. We've got 8 billion. Do the math. It's a lot of people they want to get rid of. 81, they tried to kill Reagan because he attempted to stop them as well. In 1984, in Australia, letters patent went missing. So letters patent is a document sort of involved with the Constitution and legal doings that determine who is going to sit as judges, right? Don't have to be lawyers. If we go back to this one, where's the, do you know the original guy, what was his name? Sir Earl someone? He was the first Prime Minister of Australia. He quickly then became head judge. And then they started deciding who would be judges. And then all of the laws are all interpreted by the judges. It's an important document. 1985, all the Australian courts became owned by an American corporation. In 1986, they created the Australia Act, completely fraudulent. 1990, the Woods Commission. Now, this is starting to do with stolen generation and kids and pedophilia and churches, and satanic rituals. And then there was the Royal Commission in 2014. Nothing was done. What was done? Nothing. It's because they were all involved. In 1999, Australia refused to give Senate any details on Pine Gap. It's getting depressing, isn't it? Let's bounce over to some galactic stuff and get a bit of light. Where are we? Seed Rebellion. All right. Ascension timelines. The planetary Christos realignment mission. Now, it actually failed. So back then, since 2012, or even like the harmonic convergence of 1987, everyone was real hell-bent on doing grid work, which is running frequencies through your body, 12th dimensional frequencies, and standing your feet on the ground at stargates, and you know, where the little hairs, if you've watched the other videos, where the little hairs of the earth sending a vibration through our feet down into the earth. 1999 to 2004 was the stellar activation cycle. But like right now, the ascension mechanics and stargates are closed. The only stargate that is open is Peru, and that will close in 2022. So the cycle for that is... No, I'll look more into that. So stellar activation cycle, this time 500,000 type 1 and 2 indigos been coming in for the last 100 years. And we are the return of the Emerald Order. 2016, there was a peace treaty signed, but there are sleeper contracts. So some of them are just like, you know, people that just don't know anything, but they're just pure love, you know. Earth is very interesting at the moment. There are orphans coming from internal creation with 11th and 12th dimensional frequency. I know a couple of people with children that are got some pure orphans. So we think about the Lemurian Council of Mu, the Dream Walkers, the Essene Codex that were promoting the divine feminine. And we're here to awaken what is unconscious, very interdimensional happenings. So yes, the harmonic convergence is from Aztec cosmology of 22 cycles of 52 years equals 1,144 years. 13 heaven cycles end in 468, and later it makes it 1987. So it was like a mass meditation that took place. Arc of the Covenant Gates, replenish, not sphere of energy, spiral Fibonacci, November 23. 2000, the Star Ascension. The 11th CDD play was supposed to be returned, and the Anunnaki stabbed the Emerald Order Guardians in the back. So we were looking at Celts, because I always feel like I haven't got a lot of lineage, you know, like I'm not like tribal to any land. I don't know my ancestors past 2 generations. I feel a bit, you know, but again, I was reminded that the Celts, which I'm Celt, I'm Irish, with a bit of Portuguese in it, are Indigenous Margie Council line race, indigo type 1s, like the heritage. So, you know, Indigenous people are not just black, they're also white. So in 2000, the Dimension 12 was anchored, 12th strand, God source consciousness frequency. The Maharaji Council triggered an early input of 5 to 9 dimensional frequencies to save the poles shifting, and all they needed was 8% of humans with a high enough frequency to collapse the frequency fence, and it worked, all right? I'll leave this last little bit just to go over this really heavy stuff here. So, okay, in 1999, the US bankruptcy ended, and so did the monarchy. Full colon Russell Huff and J. Full colon Gould and full colon David Wynn, full colon Miller, saved America from bankruptcy by filing for the Title IV flag. They filed the quantum grammar construct, and they were given a country, and they chose the will of the court. Russell did a brilliant thing by capturing the now, time, space, and language. I would, if you have the mental gymnastics and bandwidth to look into that, I can direct you with that information. Now, 1992 in Australia, COAG was signed. It's the Council of Australian Government. Go look at footnote 76. Basically says they don't have to tell anyone what they're doing. It's disgusting. They did that without anyone knowing. Did you know about COAG? No, I didn't either. 2007, the Lisbon Agreement, more secrecy. So in 2001, when the Twin Towers, a plane flew into towers, they declared a war on terrorism. Weapons of mass destruction. Well, it was a weapon of mass destruction. It was an inaudible, invisible sound weapon that dissolved that building to dust. Watch it. You know, like, we saw a plane go into a building. It had nothing to do with it. You see the reporters going, oh my God, the building just came down. It just collapsed into earth and disintegrated. Yeah, right, okay. In 2015 in Australia, October 20, Senator Bill Heffernan, probably the only guy in our corrupt system, brought into Senate the documents about the pedophile suppression orders, and everyone just ignored him. It was a secret list, including very prominent MPs and police, social services. There were 28 main names. It was John Howard's niece that placed that 90-year order on, and nothing's been done. What are we? 7 years later? Still nothing. It's disgusting. 2007, Pine Gap inserted space-based infrared systems, which is just monitoring everyone, right? In 2007, and this is to do with Brigalow in the Queensland courts, in the High Court, they removed all rural and residential rights over to the government. Did you know that? By a company, Brigalow. They were created in 1962 as a land trust fund, and in 1992, it adopted Queensland Land Legislation Act so that the body corporate owns it. It's disgusting. 2017, the New York Times published declassified UFO docs from the Pentagon, from the secret space program, saying that they were rescuing off-planet vehicles. And it kind of just disappeared. No one ever talked any more about it. Kind of just got squashed. Like, I don't talk about that. But in 2020, Trump declares the secret space program. Because the war that, I mean, it's an info war, it's a spiritual war. It's a war on people's souls, for sure. They're like shooting out like satellites and stuff like that. That's the war that's going on. 2020, Trump's taken back over the Federal Reserve. And, you know, did you know that in 2018, the Australian government cut $80 billion to services? Now, most of those fuckers, have all got, I would say, shares in that Brigalow company that then own money out of the mines and the water and all that sort of stuff. It's got to stop. I know a way. The estimation going back 5 years ago were that 4 million Australians live below the poverty line. I'm on payment at the moment, government payment, because I can't physically work. Acres have fallen out with everyone that I used to work with. Pick a side right now, I say. So that payment that I get doesn't even cover any of my rent. So it just encourages to see, because how else am I going to live? So, you know, it's a pittance. I have friends call me dog bludger. I'm like, really? Paid tax most of my life. I'd say between 6 and 7 million Australians live well below the poverty line right now, and it's plummeting as we speak. Dear Donald Trump, in 2018, declared a war on human trafficking. Now, do you know that more money is made from trafficking humans than trafficking drugs and cocaine? It was Queen Lizzie that was in the king of the heroin trade. In fact, her personal assistant, didn't they like get sick of carrying her heroin around? 8 million children a year go missing. That's in the world. I think 1 million go missing in Australia. And yes, then they're Cabal ritual people. In June 21st, there was a ritual in 2020. I've got to change that. Sorry, that's a typo there. And it was to return the Antichrist. Now, I do know that ceremony went ahead. I don't know if it was fully attended or how successful it was. But I listened to Jessie Sabato, and she was training for that ritual since the age of 2, and she would be in her early 40s now. Now, in 2018, the Australian bankruptcy ended. Now, when they come off bankruptcy, it means there's no constitution, which is what happened in 1999 in America. They came off the bankruptcy in England, therefore there's no... And so America did not have a constitution since 1999, which is why everything's gotten out of hand. It's all fiction, right? So Trump is going to go back to the Republic of 1776, which is great. So it's constitution. What do we have to go back to? Chief came to Australia, full colon Russell, -J, full colon Gould, came to Australia at the end of our bankruptcy because our flags were floating in the sea, and he salvaged and towed them, captured them, and he put the government on notice, told them that they're pirates and they need to get off the land. And there is someone that has treated those flags that lives in Sydney. We don't really need those flags anyway. I mean, I actually sit underneath the Title IV flag anyway, which is the American flag that was captured in 1999. It's a grammar flag. Anyone can sit under it by taking a claim of life. It's very easy. And this is an important date. If you're Australian, on the 1st of April 2020, the government closed. 2021, $64 quintillion was seized from the Vatican. Since JB signed himself in as president of the corporation of the United States, which is just a small little circle like that, like Australia is actually Norfolk Island, a little thing that big. DC's a foreign state now, so the Republic will be reinstated. So all these things have been happening lately, like Obamagate, all the documents coming out about Obama. Dutch royal family have been executed because they were so evil, it just wasn't a no-brainer. Dutch government's resigned, Italian prime minister's resigned, and the 190,000 indictments that will roll out will take probably 2 to 3 years to roll out. They'll probably common law will get ushered in. They will go in front of a military tribunal, in front of 2 judges, and if they're found guilty, they'll be taken out the back and shot. That's probably going to take 2 to 3 years to get through, and they want everyone to be able to see that. So this system down here is service to self, when we need to be in service to others. Hence why I'm doing this. I'm cracking on. I'm nearly finished. So between 2012 and 2017, Earth and Tara, the grids merged, which is good. The looking glass technology is back in the good hands. There was another little Zeta Draconian invasion going on here of parallel Earth. And that's why the 2011 failsafe was instigated. The fallen Oriphims reversing Oriphims. So there is someone darker than the Draconians, and they are called the Fatali, and they do what's called energy technology. It's called dark flowering. So if they do things like get into your mental body and your etheric body and make you think bad thoughts. And yeah, not good. There are things that you can do to protect yourself from this. They are plasma practices that you can do that really, really protect you from this stuff. So if you're a healer, if you're working with people, if you're feeling exposed to this kind of energy, like having not so good thoughts, getting angry, or you see people that are just really asleep, it may be because of this stuff. And again, we are a free will earth. So you get to choose how you want to feel. Only you. That's all you've got control of is you. So be mindful what you listen to, what you think, what you say, you know. And ascension simply means frequency. And frequency is emotion. And I went through that in the other timeline the other day about what frequency is and about how you lift that. So home is Andromeda. So that's where we want to go. So indigos, it's time to go home. We've been trapped here long enough. Now we need to activate all our DNA, clean our bodies, lift our frequency, tune into these vibrations that are here and coming in, connect with like-minded people, know that you're not alone, and yeah, the Emerald Order Guardians, that's what you are. You are Margie Grail. So again, we've got till November 23rd for the timelines to split. 5D mental body holographic insert technology. Yeah, that's what them Vitali do. So the dream walkers code gene. So if you have prolific dreams, you're probably a dream walker. All right. That's a lot, and I feel like that's taking up way too much time. But just before we joke off, I did try to just do a summary really quickly because Earth's had 3 seedings. First seeding was 250 million years ago. We had black, yellow, white, brown people, Antrian, Renau, Hibaru, Melchizedek's, Uniseti, 6 male, 6 female. It was all the electric wars blew that up. Then the second seeding, which was Atlantis and the Lemanians, Ceres Egyptian Hebrew, 945,000 years ago. I have Horus, Portal, Kentarians, Ark of the Covenant, that stuff. Then the third seeding, the Egyptian subraces, the Urtites, the priesthood of Ur, Syrian Anunnaki, Nephilim, so wrong. Ceres Egyptians, I'm tired, it's late, sorry. Syrian blue races, Law of One, get that out the way. So the Law of One teachings, if you can, they're online on YouTube, you can go and listen to them. The original Templar divine science, Elohim, Templar Anu, the Kilunta, Keepers of the Blue Flame, Ark of the Covenant, Halls of Amenti, the Electric Wars, there it is again, Azerite Family of Ra Confederacy, Luciferian Rebellion, I've just talked all about this, 1,000-Year Wars, Treaty of El Anu, Story of Real Christmas. Hey, the Julian calendar was in from 4456, Julius Caesar, 365 days and 6 hours. And then it came in 1582 as the Gregorian calendar. Like Pope Gregory brought it in and just dropped 6 hours. And that's how we're stuck on that. Again, locked into time and space. Roman deities are days of the week. They're ritual sacrifices, Hellenistic astrology. So they convinced us that time exists with past and future, negative speech. God as man in the sky, heaven and hell. Satan is not a real man. And the hexahedron is a 90-degree angle, so energy can't move smoothly. Whenever you used to build houses like squares, they were domes. These are the keys to the Vatican. They're 2 keys. They wear these upside down on their little Pope outfits. Russell has brilliantly captured the now-time space, which is multidimensional. It's brilliant. So there were 3 Christs. There was, 12 BC, he was a 12th level avatar. There were actually 3 Ekatic twins that were here to activate 48-strand DNA template, right? Keepers of the secrets of the Ark of the Covenant and the blue flame of Amenti. Priests of Ur. It was a natural conception to a lady called Judy, who was of blue flame Melchizedek, Hebrew Essene lineage, and his father Johui, blue flame Melchizedek, Hebrew cloister, House of Solomon, related to the King of David. He was 39 years old. He passed in 27 AD. In 27 AD, the Essene Divide, Emerald Covenant was broken. There was, I'll hate you, Avatar. I can't, my eyes are burning from reading the screen now. Joshua Senator Melchizedek. He was in Egypt from 8 to 21 AD, created the mystery school. He had 5 kids. He did study mainly in India and Persia. Now, at the same time, Joshua 9 was born, and he's the one with Mary Magdalene, and it was not a natural conception. It was a Nephilim ET inception, but so was his mother, and father was Joseph. Yep, 7 BC, that all ET Nephilim inception. So they didn't want people to know, so they made up that story about divine God and all that sort of stuff. He studied in Nepal, Greece, Syria, Persia, Tibet. His wife was Mary Magdalene. His teachings were a lot more well-known, causing a lot more Roman persecution. Joshua and Mary had 3 children, and they were exiled to France to protect them. They still have a living bloodline. These guys didn't initially know about each other, but it turned out that Joshua 9 had done initiations with Joshua 12 in Egypt, Giza, in the Stargate. Because I think the gates were closed when he was there, but he could still ascend people through his frequency. There was a guy called Arahabi, visions believing him to be Joshua 9. He was the one that was crucified to divert attention away from Joshua 9. Christian Jewish faith. Joshua 12 is the true saviour of Hebrew. Actually, December 25th, Christmas, is Nimrod's birthday, who married his mother and sacrificed his firstborn. So that's what you're sort of celebrating. Go look into that. That's from House of Tower of Babel kind of times. So the 3 sets of galactic twins, and it was the Christos seeding mission of 46 BC, 37 AD. It was Joshua 12 and Mahawahari, the Mary. They were D12 Christos by Vega code DNA. Emmanuel and Ashodari, Akasha Crown Vega code, and John the Baptist and Mary Gedra, True Kuda Vega codes, primary frequency holders of the 144,000 incarnate grail indigos to reimplant, reseed Veda code mathematical programs into Earth's planetary grid shields, preparing for the ascension cycle of 2000 to 2017 AD, the 4 faces of man. Whew, that's a lot. I've been going for hours now, I'm sorry. I know it's a lot to digest, but bits and pieces, that's all you can do. Got any questions, reach out. Yeah. Stay in your heart. Enjoy your dreams. This is all just a game. We'll get there. Big love.